He's editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire. Ben, thanks a lot for joining us.
Sure.
Ben, very interesting comment. Planned Parenthood's annual report indicates that since 2012, the year DACA was enacted, they have performed over 1.3 million abortions, and these speeches aren't impromptu, and yet here she is saying they have the right to live. Why do you suppose that Cecile Richards made this statement?
Well, I mean, obviously, Cecile Richards is a basic believer in the idea that human beings are only crowned with their humanity after they exit the womb, which is a rather arbitrary point to do it. So she doesn't even see the distinction. I mean, this is the blindness of a lot of folks on the Planned Parenthood left. They see a baby that's about to be born, and they say, that baby does not have a right to life. You cannot impede a woman from killing that baby. But if an illegal immigrant mother brings the baby across the border the day after the baby is born, then that baby not only has a right to live, that baby has a right to live in the United States. So it's pretty amazing, the obvious falsehood of that perception of the world.
Well, and it's really interesting because, when someone who's pro-life hears right to live, they think, wow, but she really wasn't meaning that with those words. We do know that DACA beneficiaries fall within the lower socioeconomic status and that Planned Parenthood often markets its services to low-income populations. Do you see this as a marketing strategy?
Well, I mean, everything that Planned Parenthood does is a marketing strategy. I mean, Planned Parenthood has only one overriding priority, and that's domestically and internationally, and that overriding priority is providing abortions to as many women as humanly possible. I mean, the roots of Planned Parenthood are eugenicist in nature. Planned Parenthood doesn't like to consider itself a eugenicist organization now, but the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of babies they are aborting would be born into more poverty-driven homes. Sure, everything they do is a marketing strategy. I'm not sure this was specifically a marketing strategy, but their goal is to reach out to every woman all over the world as far as they can possibly find them, suggest that they're on their side, and that as their friends, they recommend an abortion would be a nice thing to do.
So, why are the media covering up the brutality of Planned Parenthood? Because it might make you uncomfortable. Worse, it might make Democrats uncomfortable because Democrats love Planned Parenthood. The Democratic Party platform stands for the ability of a woman to crush her baby's head 1 minute before birth, and they want you to pay for it. It's actually in their platform. Quote, Democratic Party strongly and unequivocally supports Roe v. Wade and a woman's right to make decisions regarding her pregnancy, including a safe and legal abortion, regardless of ability to pay. President Obama, as a state senator in Illinois, he actually called for a fully formed living baby to be killed after birth. He said such a child was merely a fetus outside of the mother's womb. That's how Democrats think. We have it on gruesome tape. Here's a top Planned Parenthood doctor talking about how to use less crunchy techniques to kill babies so that their organs can be more easily sold.
How he feels about using a less crunchy technique to get more whole specimens.
And here's another top Planned Parenthood doctor talking about the ease with which baby intestines can be harvested and eyeballs can be extracted.
These orbits are good too, and at this stage you start to get the retinal pigment epithelium,
yes,
which is in the back, which is you've collected that before.
So all the orbits are so easy.
It's just delightful. A third top Planned Parenthood doctor negotiated over baby body part prices while standing over a tray of dissected children.
I think the per item thing works a little better just because we can see how much we can get out of it.
Now, naturally, Hillary Clinton thinks the people who do this are just wonderful.
I'm proud to stand with Planned Parenthood.
But when Hillary Clinton is shown video of Planned Parenthood doctors talking about selling organs, even she pretends to find it, quote, disturbing. People who claim they're disturbed by the sale of baby organs, but are totally fine with the crushing of their heads, are moral idiots. It's like saying you're disturbed by the whipping of American slaves, but not by anyone holding them as slaves in the first place. Here's the truth. Abortion ends a human life. The science is settled. By 3 weeks after sperm meets egg, the baby's brain, spinal cord, heart, and other organs begin forming. That's about the time when most women notice they're pregnant in the first place. By week 4, we've got early facial features. By week 7, the baby has toes. By week 9, the baby is developing external genitalia. By week 10, the baby has started growing fingernails. And that's all in the first trimester. That's the least controversial abortion period. But we treat these innocent human lives as junk for the garbage disposal. During the first 3 months of pregnancy, doctors plunge a tube with an edged tip into the womb. They then use the suction power of the tube to literally tear apart the child while it's alive, and then suck the pieces out of the mother's womb. This is called suction aspiration. Unpleasant? Try dilation and curettage. In this version of abortion, doctors use a curette, which chops up the baby inside the womb and then scrapes it right out. As the baby grows, the methods of abortion get uglier and uglier. There's dilation and evacuation, in which doctors use a forceps to crush the baby, including its brain and spine. The pieces are then removed. And as a last resort, doctors use partial birth abortion. Democrats love partial birth abortion. This is a procedure in which doctors use an ultrasound. They find a baby's legs with the forceps. They pull it into the birth canal. They deliver the entire baby except for the head. And then they stab the baby in the skull with the scissors, insert a suction tube into the skull, and suck out the brains. This is also the preferred method for ensuring that the internal organs are best preserved, so Planned Parenthood can hawk them to Big Pharma. Taken in total, these various forms of abortion and others are used to murder approximately 3,000 babies every single day in America. That's over 1 million babies a year. That's 55 million children since Roe v. Wade. The media want to keep us blind to these facts, or perhaps we want to blind ourselves. But by blinding ourselves to murder, we become complicit in it.
What would you advise to a young woman who's not married, who gets raped, but does not have access to an abortion, as that's something that you believe in? No abortions, right?
Yes, I'm pro-life, yeah.
Okay, so then what would you advise that woman to do?
Okay, so first of all, I do appreciate that you've created the saddest possible scenario for a living woman. Is she also disabled? Let's really go whole hog, and she has breast cancer as well. So it's as long as we're creating imaginary victims. But you know, the answer is that doesn't actually change the calculus, meaning that obviously what happened to this person is an awful, awful, horrible thing. And as I said earlier, the person who raped her should be tracked down, captured, killed, or castrated. So that's number one. As far as the morality of abortion does not change based on need, right? So the fact that she's poor and needs an abortion doesn't change whether she was rich or needs an abortion or poor, because the abortion argument really comes down to, do you think this is a life or not? If you don't think it's a life, you can do whatever you want with it. If you think it's a life, you can't do anything with it. As far as what she does with the baby, that's up to her. You know, it's obviously going to be an obvious economic burden. I would think that there are a lot of people out there like me who would give charity in order to try and help out somebody who's obviously in that sort of situation. And there are charities that exist for people like this to try and help out. And if you know of this woman, tell me her name, and I'm happy to give you some money.
So I'm just wondering, because there is the health of the woman that's taken into question, and she doesn't have the money to have proper health care, or as well as the fact that if she's in college, there's a good chance that she won't be able to continue college.
Okay, the idea that what about the health of the mother? So my view on abortion, again, the morality of killing a baby does not change as long as the baby's not actually threatening the life of the mother. In the cases where the baby threatens the life of the mother, like, for example, you have a case where a woman has actual breast cancer and she needs chemotherapy, and she's pregnant, but the chemotherapy will abort the baby, which actually does happen, right? That is a case where the mother should, I think, be able to get the treatment. That's not the same thing as an abortion. So they're actually treating the mother for what she's got, and the byproduct of that is the baby is terminated, the baby's killed, basically. I do think that it's important to note two things. One, the solution to something horrible happening is not another horrible thing happening in the killing of a baby, which I think is actually horrible. And two, it's really not good to take the marginal case and then use that to argue broad. So what people tend to do is they say, well, what about the girl who's raped? What about her abortion case? So now let me ask you, if the girl weren't raped and she just got pregnant, would you think that she should still have access to an abortion?
I do, because I think it's her body and I think it's her health.
Right, so you're giving me an exceptional case in order to prove a rule that you don't actually want to defend. So if you just come up and ask me, do I think a woman should have an abortion, then we could actually have an argument about, or a discussion about in what cases an abortion was appropriate. But you always, this is what people on the pro-choice side, the anti-life side, actually do. What they actually do is they take the marginal case, they take the raped, woman who has a severe disability, and they say, this is all abortions. That's not all abortions. Significantly less than 1% of all abortions are performed on women who have been raped. So if you want to talk about the epidemic of abortion in the country, over 1 million abortions performed a year in the United States, let's talk about the other 99% of cases. When you are willing to agree with me that the other 99% of cases are not cases where abortion should be necessary, then I'm willing to have a discussion with you about compromise. But I don't think that's what you want. I think that you're just using the exceptional case in order to try and guilt me into supporting a broad-based abortion platform. These are two separate issues. Sympathy for the woman and sympathy for, how about a little sympathy for the child? Okay, at any point does sympathy for the child come in here? You say I'm not compromising. I'm the only one in this conversation who's expressed the willingness to take money out of my own pocket and put it in somebody else's.
So have you donated to Planned Parenthood then?
What was that?
Have you donated to Planned Parenthood?
No, because they kill babies.
No, they don't.
They kill 300,000 unborn children a year. No, I don't donate to a baby genocidal organization.
Last question about your Planned Parenthood thing. So why do you think it's not about controlling women's bodies and just about the separate life? Like, after the baby is born, how come when people don't care about them? They don't care where they end up in foster care. They don't care about the mother being poor. Like,
Okay, I do care about the mother being poor. I do care about foster care.
okay, well, why don't you advocate for that, though? Because
For what?
Planned Parenthood is supposed to prevent abortions.
Because, Planned Parenthood doesn't prevent abortions. They perform hundreds of thousands of abortions a year. They perform 300,000 abortions a year. They're the leading abortion mill in the United States.
Evidence for that, though.
That they perform 300,000 abortions a year from Planned Parenthood. That's my evidence. They don't dispute that. No one disputes that.
Like birth control and cancer.
I'm not anti-birth control.
I know.
Birth control is extraordinarily cheap.
That provides affordable birth control, which would in turn.
Okay, they're not the only people in America who provide affordable birth control. You can go get a pack of condoms down at the local CVS for $12.
Condoms great. People need medication too.
Yes, and it's true that most forms of birth control are also extraordinarily cheap on an annualized basis. Unless you have a severe problem, most birth control is very cheap and readily available. And I'm not against people going and getting that from Planned Parenthood. As you may have noticed, I'm mostly against abortion. If you want to go to Planned Parenthood and get a contraceptive, go for it. I don't care. I do care when you start killing babies. This is a problem for me.